Roblox Anarchy. It's kind of hard to find at times. At least it's hard to find decent ways of anarchy. One of the games that have been slightly increasing, but it's really still not that popular, is Criminality. I find Criminality to be a good game if you want anarchy and lawlessness. It obviously has some issues with it, but I find it a lot better than the Streets or the Hood. I really never played the Hood because I found it to just be a ripoff of the Streets. It's got a better map than both of them combined. It has better weapons than both of them combined. It has better anti-exploiter than both of them combined. And it's overall just better. It may sound biased, but it's true. This is much better than either of them. And I find it to be less of a cash grab as well, because it doesn't have necessary game passes for the gameplay. Let's talk about the map. The map is relatively simple to learn. I played the game for a week and I learned the map relatively easily. It's got a lot of landmarks, so you can generally figure out where you are, and you can also call it out when you are playing with your friends so that they can come over to you and you can meet up and hang out. There's a decent amount of places to hide in the map, such as buildings that you can run inside of, along with buildings that you can hide behind. There's also dumpsters, but you really don't use dumpsters because they're not very good for hiding, as they're dumpsters and they're pretty easy to search through because a lot of the time you're not wearing clothing that allows you to blend in too easily with dumpsters. There's also trash piles, which yes, you can hide in, but you need black clothing for it. And there's also the bigger dumpsters right next to it. Obviously, there's also rooftops based on the ladders, and they're good, but you kind of need a weapon in order to actually utilize them properly. Let's talk about the weapons in the game. There's honestly too many of them for me to talk about because that would be boring to talk about. I'm not going to talk about every single gun that's in the game and be like, oh yeah, this one's the best. I will say some of them are overpriced and should be lowered a little bit. Key ones is probably the M4 and I guess the Tommy gun, because the Tommy gun is it's really not that good. Most of the melee weapons are really nice and are pretty consistent. The game does have an issue with, I'm not sure if it's ping, internet, or just the game itself, but sometimes you hit something and it doesn't connect. This happens with doors, this happens with melee weapons, this also happens with the safe systems in the game. It can be really annoying, as sometimes it can get you killed and other times it's just, you know, you want to get your money as fast as possible and the game isn't letting you because the safe doesn't want to break even though your hand is hitting it. This generally isn't an issue though, because you can just keep moving forward and hopefully you'll be able to get that safe before someone comes in there and kills you and takes all of your money. Money grinding. Money grinding relatively, it's relatively simple, okay? It's not that hard to figure out, it's not that hard to do. You can make tons of money in an hour and be fine for a really long time. So I don't really need to cover too much of that, as you just need to figure it out. But key locations is the underground I don't even know what to call it, hideout called Vibe Check, and Tower, which is that, along with Playground. Those are all the red loot, which is the highest tier loot locations. Let's talk about the biggest issue in this entire game. Gang warfare. I understand there's not much you can really do about this, as people are going to hang out with their friends either way. You can't put a rule in place that goes against it inside of a game that is all about no rules. My main issue with it is that big gangs tend to take over servers and then never let new players get anywhere, as the new players are constantly being killed and then they get thrown off from the game and they don't want to play it anymore because they're getting killed every 2 seconds from some big gang of like 10 people that they cannot combat because it's a new player. This is relatively easy to fix by just hiding from the gang, but it does hinder a lot of things, and it also makes the players generally not want to fight other people because they'll most likely die, since they learned that the hard way at the very beginning of the game. The other big thing that I hate is the leveling system. It takes a really long time to level up. It can take you days to level up, depending on how you play. Now, I've seen people level up in 1 day, but that's because they play quite mean by random killing every single person. I understand it's the point of the game, but goddamn, it's almost like it's meant for you to random kill every single person that you see, which I can understand to an extent. The gunplay in this game is quite good, and you can learn it relatively easily by just, you know, having a few dogfights with people, or not dogfights, but having a few fights with people. And also you can learn it yourself by just training, by shooting a wall, figuring out the bullet spray. It's quite easy. Melee system is pretty easy as well, but it does have bugs, as I said earlier. But you can get around that just by blocking and trying to survive as long as you can, and also trying to get the upper hand with your weapon arsenal. In the end, the entire game is quite good, and I really like it, and I hope that it gets out of... I don't know if it's in beta or alpha anymore. It's in beta, okay. And I wanted to get out so that more people can play it, but I also kind of don't want it to stop being paid access, because if it stops being paid access, there's going to be a lot more random killing and a lot more gangs at play, but it also will increase the community in general and make the game more diverse as a whole. As I said, it is paid access. I don't remember the exact price for it, but it is at least 150 Robux, which isn't that bad, and the game passes in the game really aren't that expensive either. The Armory is probably the best game pass to buy, as it lets you get a bunch of weapons unlocked pretty early on, so I'd recommend this for new players if you can afford it. But it's not necessary, and you can enjoy the game either way. It just makes it easier to play the game. But yeah, in the end, it is probably one of the most chaotic games I've ever played, and I don't understand why I still play it, since I constantly die. I will die 20 times in a row on a day, and I'll still play it the next day because I guess I'm insane. So I recommend it. I think it's a good game. It's got some gang issues, but those are to be expected in a game like this. But yeah, play the game. I really like it, and I hope to see some new people on Criminality.